Hello, all. Sique here, and welcome to the first official episode of Her Ongoing Candor, where I, your favorite blue-collar muse, talks about her spiritual work. And let's start with the hard stuff, shall we? I was supposed to be releasing a game around this time, and not a card deck. But as I mentioned in the Path to Unpunishable Card 6, the card deck that I'm actually releasing, I was dealing with night terrors and panic attacks, and that my body was reacting to my worst fears, which, let's just say I'm living. Let's not just say I'm living. Everything from political to family to career, all of that is happening. And I keep plowing along on the path anyway. And I kept pushing through it, like trying to raw dog it. And that turned out not to be the move. And what makes it embarrassing and uncomfortable is that I truly believed that I had made it through to the other side of this. I really thought I had survived the grief and I was ready to push forward. I thought I survived that layer of anxiety, of grief, of cutting through, draining stuff out of my life. And I would finally be able to let my nervous system relax enough for me to build this game with joy. And then the lack of urgency from the other side, let's just say the other side, did help. I mean, it really, really did. It allowed me to get done what I needed to get done. But I will say this, and I'm going to drop it. Phone calls, chats, and texts work both ways. So if you're going to yell at me, I'd like you to remember that. And now I'm going to walk away from that. Because it was beneficial. I knew I needed time to work through this block so I could finish the game and continue. Because my goal is to be an expert in game adaptation from your fiction and building your own tabletop RPG systems and developing a video game series. I knew what my work was. I knew what my goal is. I know what my mission is. But I also know that trying to brute force that shit was going to land me right where I was. I would make full circle because I'm still trying to fight through the wound instead of actually stopping, opening up, looking at it, cleaning it out and letting it heal. And that was the problem with my writing career, truly, if I'm going to be really, really honest with you. I worked with my eyes kind of half open and unfocused, trying not to sit up there and look at anything and focus on that. Because I was afraid if joy showed up, if I was actually enjoying it, it would be taken from me. And honestly, the fear did not come from nowhere. Some of y'all know these stories, but I'm going to relay all of them from top to bottom so you understand. So you can understand where I'm coming from here. Some of my earliest creations, when it comes to fantasy and sci-fi and the worlds I've created, because I've been world building since I was a kid, were destroyed because my mother because they were unrighteous, quote unquote. They were unrighteous, and it was mainly because the women in the congregation saw it and was like, it started talking, and so she did that as more of a performative Christianity. And I say that because this is the same woman who introduced me to Lord of the Rings, of which she was a huge fan, Star Trek, of which she was a huge fan, and that included the movies. And she took me to every Star Wars film, most of the 80s action movies you can remember. I've actually seen The Fly in the theater. I've seen Toxic Avenger in the theater. I saw that weird movie with Jeff Goldblum and Cyndi Lauper in the theater with her. All right. So just so we're clear. Anything that Henson made, most things that were dark and animated, like heavy metal and heavy metal, Secret and Them, Dark Cauldron, Sword and Sorcery, Clash of the Titans, all of those. Red Sonja, all of those. And any R-rated movie she wanted to take me that she couldn't get a babysitter for. So you can understand the hypocrisy there and why it hurt. I would think that the things I thought these would be the things she would be proud of. No go. And then in middle school, I know most of y'all heard this on the podcast before, I had a science teacher who I respected and learned that I was writing a simple basic A program for the science fair. And it was going to outshine her favorite students. So she, as I was putting together in the computer lab, she asked me to change the colors. And I did, but the contrasts are hard to read. And then when I went to revert it back, I discovered she had overwritten the working program. And I had to submit the broken version. And I lost to a wooden kidney presented by her favorite students. And at the time, I didn't call it sabotage. Other teachers did. They noticed. They were the ones who commented. And I kept it in mind. I didn't say anything, but I kept that in mind. And later that year, when I wanted to attend computer camp, my mother told me that she and the teacher had planned to sabotage my work so I wouldn't pursue tech further. She literally said that. That's why we had you to break the program so you would just get that out your system. Yeah, I was in tech for 25 years, so fuck her. And while that was the first time a teacher sabotaged me, it would not be the last. And I'm not saying that a bunch of people were after me, but it is weird that it happened more than once. In the early 90s, okay, let me back up. I was introduced to Dungeons and Dragons with Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. All right. And like 89, 90, by that time I was writing modules, right? I would write them for my boyfriend. And I was proud of them. And I shared them with a mutual friend of ours at the time. And he told me that they were not very good and I should stick to playing. I'm not sure if he knew that I wrote other modules. I was mad, but I ignored it until I saw one of my modules printed in Dragon magazine, unchanged. Swear to God. And when I confronted him, he said that they were better coming from him than they were me. I like to mention that, yes, he was indeed a cis white male. And one who couldn't fight, or at least he couldn't fight better than me because I beat his ass over that. It was satisfying, but I didn't write another module until Champions 5th edition in 2002. Yeah, that was a while. World building is how I survived, and it's still one of my deepest loves. And I wrote bits and pieces and notes and everything. But it wasn't until I moved to Austin in 2003, 2004, that I spent the time digitizing all my notebooks and teaching myself how to program again, hoping to build a video game. I was working with smaller engines and I wanted to build a game. And when my marriage ended, because I moved to Austin married to someone else, I came back to find all my notes burned by my then husband. He also took the hard drive from my computer, stuck a magnet to it, and dropped it in the trash can full of water. That's how I found it. And I could not retrieve anything off of it. So all of my work from like the 10 years before was lost. And I moved into another apartment within like a couple of months after that. And I wouldn't write again until I restarted my career in 2016. The second time a teacher sabotaged me was once again programming. And it was here in Austin in a programming class. And we were taking our final. And the instructor, I'm showing him my program. And the instructor literally sat down and changed the code while testing it and causing it to fail. And he just said, that's a D. I'm like, wait a minute. I looked at him, looked at the code, repaired the code, and demanded a retest. And he refused while he was writing code for a student he favored, giving her a B. Now that's fine, but why did you have to mess up my grade? And I know it sounds unbelievable, and the administrators who I talked to thought it was too, until I sat down with a blank page and rebuilt the program from scratch. I built it from scratch in front of them, ran it again, broke it the way the instructor had broken it, showed how I repaired it and how I was running it again. And then I told them this. This may be a D project. I'm not debating that. But if this is a D project, then the person who got a B should be able to do this bare minimum. If this is a D, then the person who got a B should be able to do this. And that person could not do that. And I know for a fact that they could not do that because I was the one tutoring them. She was getting close. I had been tutoring her the entire semester. She could not do it. With more time and energy and effort, she would be able to do it if she took the class again. But as of that day, she was not able to. And I said, if you brought her in and if you sit up there, gave her another clean sheet and asked her to do the same thing, I guarantee you she wouldn't. And they brought her in and she could not write the code. The instructor was fired. But I still didn't finish another program until I completed the Java boot camp in 2025. But here's the thing. I can talk to you about it because there was a time I couldn't talk about it, but I never grieved any of this. I just kind of packed it down and told myself I was fine. But what I was actually doing was building a writing career on top of unprocessed pain, dirty and nasty, festering wounds. World building was safe. Writing was agony. World building was safe. Writing modules are agony. And I would do just enough to call it done and never look at it again. And I did that for years. Years and years. I built the Shaman States of America doing that. And I had to stop because that's not how I want to create. What I need to happen, what needs present tense to happen, is learning how to find joy in the work and letting the work energize and heal me. And while I am very close, I am this close. This particular game still is too large for me to complete without triggering panic attacks. Mainly because I don't want to disappoint anyone and I want to do right by the source material. Because that graphic novel was the first one I read that I actually felt seen in a very long time. And that means everything. But that doesn't mean I'm stopping. Never that. Never that. But it did mean that I had to ask myself how I managed to build those two other games, because I have two in my repertoire. I have my Spoons or Stabby, which I have a successful Kickstarter on, and Badges Under Glass, which I did for the Breathless hack last year. And I was like, well, how was I able to do that? I'm like, well, by bare knuckling it and raw donging it. But how was I able to finish it? And the answer was scale. Those games were small and they were bare bones, but they're also pieces of a larger system. In the Shaman States of America universe, I, Krishan Keller, am the Director of Research and Development for Caramel Sugar Evil, which is one of the hunting world's biggest outfitters, and we train hunters. So I develop games that they can use. And games have traditionally been used to teach skills. So my Spoons or Stabby is about a hunter's mental health. Badges is about death, memory, and what matters. If you remember, Badges Under Glass is where you're a hunter who is recovering the badges of hunters who have died, and then also killing the monsters that killed the hunters that you're searching for. Even Ichabod Jones, that Morkborg hack, exists both as a standalone, will be existing as a standalone, and as a Sugar Evil Games version. And my version is focused on keeping your wits when you can't trust your brain, which is a core theme of both Ichabod Jones and Morkborg. And I think and they're both separately incredible in how they do that. And I want to create something in my world that helps folks work through that. The path to Unpunishable deck, that exists for that same reason. It helps me navigate a landmine on the way to becoming the game designer I want to be. I needed to articulate how I got to the point where other people cannot punish me, in hopes that I can put this back on myself and stop punishing myself. I built this as a tool to heal myself so I can make this game. I promised you I would. So, when we talk about this, let me break that down. And let me break down how this card deck is helping me heal. So, there are 24 cards in this deck. I've already done the essentialism cards. That means it's text and nothing else. And that's important because that is low-hanging fruit and frictionless. All I need to do is come up with the concepts and put them on a card. That's how I get into these projects. And that's the reason why the essentialism brand is so important to me, because it's just the information and nothing else. I can then send them to my printer, get a couple of decks, and work with them and see if it's viable, see if I like using them, mark any changes I would make after I've practically applied them into my life. And once I've done that, and once I've made those changes and I have that deck, I started on the illustrated cards, which is the series that you're seeing. And each card has 4 parts. There is the drawing itself, there's the art pass, there's the writing and recording, and the editing. Each card is a complete project with a beginning, middle, and end. And I work as hard as I can, but I also take a lot of breaks because I have broken out into tears over small things like my markers being in disarray. I'll talk about that later. Or why aren't the washes working right? Because you got to mix them. I've gone through a lot of things that allow my brain to kind of beat me up and punish me. And I had to rest and reassure myself that this is the path, right? But with each one being its own project, when I complete it, that's worth celebrating. When I complete each part, that's worth celebrating. When I overcome an obstacle, it may seem small to you, like just organize your markers, bitch. Yes, that my brain is with you. My heart and my nervous system is like, fuck you, I need to cry. So every time I do that, I celebrate and I rest. Now the goal is to do 1 card a day. But now it's more like do the work for do the first 3 parts, sleep, and then edit and publish. That's what it's looking like now. And for harder discussions like the bound heart and the scissors, it takes me a long time to get through the writing because I need to get that stuff out and fighting with myself, there's a part of me that doesn't want to expose myself like this. I don't want to open my wounds. But there's a stronger part of me that understands the importance of it and the importance of what happens after I do it. There's a small part of me that's looking at the pain, and then there's a much larger part that knows that on the other side of this pain is the life I want to live. Truly, truly it is. But the goal is 1 card a day. The ultimate goal is to be able to complete a card in 3 hours. And it isn't me racing the clock. I make it easier to start. With every card, I make things easier for me to start it, easy for me to continue it, and easier to finish. Another thing is that these 3 parts, they don't take all that long. I think the drawing takes about an hour, 45 minutes to an hour. Sorry, the drawing does not take that long. The drawing takes about a half an hour. The art pass usually takes about a half an hour. It's the writing. The writing takes about 45 minutes. And that's because I'm a slow typist more than anything else. And if I'm really having a hard time writing it out, then I go and I just talk into a mic for a half hour, take the transcript, and then edit that. So it is getting the words out is the longest portion. And then there's the art pass. Usually I have an idea of what I'm going to draw, so I just draw it. And then there's that's drawing in an art pass. It's playing with my, I have a lot of media here, and because I used to be a painter, my go-to is fine liners, and I'm trying out markers. At least I did. I bought them and I let them sit for a year after they dried out. And also using digital. I love all of those, and I'm trying to see what I really like nowadays, what I enjoy dealing with and working with. All of that together, and then the editing, it doesn't take long. I'm using it in iMovie. I have set it up so there's only about 5 components that I'm working with any of these cards. So as soon as I get all 5 of them, I know where they're supposed to go. There isn't a lot of editing, and I just ship it out. And the question is, well, we've seen your stuff and some of it's kind of rough. Yes, it is. Yes, it is rough. Why? Because accepting imperfection for the sake of done is what's going to save me. And I don't mean bad quality on purpose. I mean bad quality because I'm bad at it, but we're going to do our best and we're going to do better the next time. And I'll give you some examples of that. My cards do not have, you notice that the first like 5 or 6 cards have backgrounds, and then they stopped doing those because I was struggling with them. And I was beating myself up because the backgrounds weren't doing what I needed them to do. Now, some of that is mix your gouaches. The other part of that is I want the backgrounds to look a certain way. I couldn't make them do that, so we're not going to do them. I am pushing that over to a different project. Instead of forcing this, I bought a book about making patterns, like drawing patterns and drawing backgrounds, and it has exercises. And I am going to, when I do the 4 realms, which is the playing card version of the Path to Unpunishable, I'm going to draw these backgrounds, and I'm going to focus on that because the focal point will be whatever the card in the suit is. So it relieves the pressure of thinking about what I'm doing in the foreground and allows me to focus on the background. Whereas the Path to Unpunishable, I'm focused on what the actual illustration is and opposed to the background. I'm not going to have that fight right now, and I won't have that fight. All right, and they will get better. Another thing was when I realized the Procreate time lapse, which I absolutely love. The time lapse videos they produce is still not too much over a minute long. I think I was drawing for over an hour for the Ghost of Approval. I drew like about an hour and a half from beginning to end with that illustration, and with all the mistakes and with all the changes and everything, and I showed that in the video, I only got like a minute and a half of footage, and I was talking for maybe a good 22 minutes. And so I had to slow it down to 5%, and it was looking crazy. It was looking chaotic. But I just let it happen because that is what I had, and that was the best I could do at that time. I know from that moment on that I'm going to have to at least draw it on paper so I have footage enough to cover the audio, because this is first and foremost a video podcast. And then there's the deck. So I want to make sure that I had enough time. And that is having enough time for that video, for the essay and the audio is the purpose, is the goal. So while I will not be doing any full digital prints, I have digital paintings for this, I'll have other opportunities to do that. But my focus is on finishing the art and having enough video for the podcast. That is my goal. I don't want to leave everything else aside. I won't let it look chaotic. And I trust that it'll do better day by day. All right then, my markers. Oh my goodness. I bought a pack of 178 markers off the TikTok shop. They were alcohol markers and they were cheap. And I bought them because I wanted to see if I even liked the concept of alcohol markers before I bought a Copic set, before I bought a Uhuhu set, right? And I absolutely, sorry about that. I had to sneeze. I absolutely loved them, by the way, but I didn't do anything with them. Anyway, I opened up the pack and I forget why they were out of order, because I distinctly remember ordering them, or at least starting to. But I opened them up, they're disorganized, and I panic. And I panic because, not because they're out of order, because shit like that happens every day. Now, what made me panic is that my brain was like, oh my God, you will never be able to finish this project now because there is no order and I can't handle it. There's too many colors. There's too many numbers. Oh my God, it'll take all day to finish this. Actually, it won't, but that's how my brain acts. It's always, it's going to take so long with my brain, and it's a pain sometimes. But the first thing I did was kind of set them down, and I rested and let my nervous system kind of crash out for 5 minutes. I set a timer actually, and let myself crash out for 5 minutes. And then I put on Andy Pizza, the Creative Pep Talk podcast, and I organized my markers. I found one, put it in the 1 slot. Found 2, put it in the 2 slot. And once I did that, they started to jump to 3 digits, and I had another minor freak out. And then I decided to gather all of them, all the group in numeric order, 1-0. Got all those together. 1-1. Got all those together. 1-3. Got all those together. All the grays, which had letters in front of them, which also freaked me out. Got those together. Broke them into small bits, and while Andy Pizza is cheering me on in the background, I'm sorting them in one by one. And when I tell you that I was hyperventilating and my shoulders scrunched up and my stomach was nodding because I am organizing markers, I tell you the truth, dear friend. It was a struggle there for a minute. But I kept on reminding myself that the goal for today was to make sure that these were in an order that I was good with. And as I kept reassuring myself that this is the only thing we have to worry about, the only issue we have is organizing these markers, and I started to relax. I started to enjoy the podcast, and before I knew it, an hour had gone by, and my markers were organized. And so I can get on to the next thing after I rested. I think I cooked something for myself too. Right? So after I did that and I did the illustration for Bow Boy, I went to I went to use the markers and found out that half of them I wanted to use from were dried up because I hadn't used these markers in a year and a half, I think. And so I cried. Like I literally cried. And then I just took pictures of the colors I wanted, used the color picker with tears in my eyes, and loaded them into a palette. I'm like, okay, I'll use the Procreate native markers. Child, they behaved like your Corioto markers. Like they were just splotchy and streaky. And while that's good for some things, this is not what I was trying to do for this one. So, by that time, I was kind of resigned to the fact that I was going to do a lot of adjusting for this. So I went and tried to find brushes for Procreate that were markers and that acted like alcohol markers. And I was prepared to pay for them because I subscribe to True Grit and I love their brushes and their textures. But Procreate Folio, they have a little marketplace there, and they had free ones. There's 3 markers. It was smooth, it was a blender, and it was a brush that worked just like alcohol markers. And I love them, and they're exactly what I need for this. And oh my God, it was just a bigger relief. And so I'm going to be using those for right now. I had planned to learn DaVinci Resolve during this project, but I got overwhelmed. I mean, literally, I think it was like uploading things because it had to be local instead of from the cloud. And the fact that it took me so long to find how to upload them and then realize that they had to be local. And so I had to pull them off of iCloud onto my local computer. Now, mind you, I have lots of space. I have about 2 terabytes on my iCloud, and I have, I think, twice as much on my actual MacBook. For like 4 terabytes. This is not a small hard drive, but the thought of sending it at that time had me just discouraged and like fighting air. I'm like, literally, I was punching air. I was so overwhelmed, and so I decided I was going to sit down and punch air and cry a little bit, and then switch to iMovie. And then after I decided to switch to iMovie, I spent another 5 minutes because my brain was offended because I was better than that. I was better than the basic ones. I know how to video edit, right? And yes, I do, but my skills had eroded. My skills had rusted. So what do? We go back to the thing that we know we're proficient in. And for me, that's iMovie. So after I let my ego die for about 5 minutes, I went and got on that iMovie and got these things edited. And while I was in it, I figured out what components I needed to make these podcasts, have them on a folder on my local drive, make sure all of that's done, put it together, export it, have one on local, have one in the cloud, right? And then make sure I had things like thumbnails and intros, outros, all of that. Instead of letting being booty hurt because I'm doing this on iMovie, going on and focusing on what matters. And it does what I needed to do, and DaVinci can wait because there'll be plenty of opportunities. And after finishing the first 6 cards, which is a set in itself, I reviewed them without judgment or without cruelty. I even shared that. That was an article I shared with y'all. I look over them and I see, well, this is what I want to do next time. This is what I learned here. But I'm immensely proud of every last one of them because every card represents me navigating the landmine of my mind. It's me becoming unpunishable to myself. Each card raises my courage just a little and opens the space to complete another piece of the game, which is going to happen. because it's destined to. I am determined. You cannot stop me because I will not be stopped. And one of the biggest reasons is that TTRPGs, more than anything else, are tools for exploring and conquering our own minds. And I fully believe that making them can do the same thing. And I am determined to do this without punishing myself. Talk to you soon.